What's going on, my creators? I am the host that loves you the most, Ozeal, and I want to welcome you to the Creator Factor. This is a place for us to vibe about creator culture and help elevate your creator factor so you can own your brand and message through entrepreneurship and community. And I'm excited because this guest right here, y'all, our guest today is a creator who has probably one of the most entertaining TikTok accounts I've seen in quite some time. I mean, I'm definitely plugged in. And as someone who is heavy into hip hop dancing, like some of you may know, like I used to be a hip hop dancer. So when I watch her videos, not gonna lie, it makes my little urban soul happy. Okay, just a tad bit, just a tad bit. She's also the host of the Social Sunshine podcast and founder of the Fun Love Media, which is a social media management and content creation agency. And she's also accumulated over 15 million views across all social media platforms. And she's here to vibe with the Creator Factor fam about social media. Ladies and gents, let's welcome to the show, Britney Crosson in the house. What's up, Britney?
Ozeal, you were a dancer? We need to talk about this
Girl,
why are
hey,
we not
don't. Hey,
oh,
hey, hey.
oh,
We could be doing. We should do a video sometime. Come
um,
on,
yeah, now
let's
you
do it.
have to. It's automatic. I'm forcing you. We're doing this.
Let's make it happen because when I started, going down the rabbit hole, I'm like, okay, we met. You spoke at one of the Pod Houston events, by the way. So we have a little history there. And from there, I was checking out your content on social media and how fun it was. And then you started dancing and started dancing to all the hip hop classics. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to make sure I stay in touch with Brittany here. So anyway, so I've been a big fan of your content. And which, by the way, you know what? If there's like one hip hop song that
Oh,
you have to
shit.
keep in your playlist, I know, I know this is a hard one. One hip hop song in your playlist, what would it be?
I mean, the first one that comes to mind is still Dr. Dre, Snoop. That's the first one that just pops in my
Mm,
mind, you know? Uh,
hmm.
I I love all Snoop. Am I, like, aging myself by going to Snoop and Dre first? Like
Hey, we're right here. I mean, Snoop Dre.
I mean,
That's
hey,
all the.
Drake, you're cool too, yo, but, like, I'm just kinda going back to where I started, right?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I love it. Oh, I love music so much.
So you're like you are definitely like, again, I talk about, and I'll make sure I link up everything in the show notes. You're very active on social, and one of the common threads with all your social content is that you love to have fun, you love to dance, and you have like this an array of music. It's not just hip hop, but I mean, I'm impressed by your hip hop selection, by the way, because the '90s hip hop is where it's at, and then but you mix it up a lot. So where does that come from? Where does that love for music, and of course adding that to the performance come from?
I started dance classes whenever I was, like, 3,
Okay.
okay, in my little hometown in Texas, and I loved it. I think I'll have to ask my mother, but I think that probably it was this kind of assumption, I have this little girl, I'm gonna put her in dance class back in the '80s, and, and luckily for them, for spending all their money on my dance classes, and for me, I
Mhm.
loved it. I naturally just ended up loving it. Not all kids do, I did. And as a dancer, music is a huge part of what you do. Now, this was traditional stuff. So, this was ballet and tap and jazz dance classes.
Mhm.
And I did that for years. But then you move on to teen years, and I became a cheerleader. Now, if anybody knows anything about cheerleaders dancing, it is definitely more of this like hip hop, super high energy, booty shaking, situation. And I loved that so much. Like, I was so excited about it. I just wanted to dance. Like, forget all the other cheerleader stuff. Let's just dance. And so it's just been a thing in my life since I was little, since I was a child, since I was a teenager. And I've just carried that on throughout the rest of my life. And whenever I came to the realization with social media that
Mm.
it gotten to a place where you could use music with permission and it was okay.
Mm.
Because you remember back in the day that was tricky. Like before there was, really TikTok. it was very hard. Like, you're not really supposed to use music that's copyrighted, all that stuff. Well, it became easier as the platforms evolved. And I was like, wait a minute. I can just pick my favorite music and just jam out to it and then share it with the world. It got me so excited. So I've been doing it ever since.
Let's talk about, and you and I have uh, a common thread in that we both were. I know growing up, performance was a passion of mine, and it also came like yours in the form of dancing, and and then it went from like just having conversations like MTV, and then I was in a rock
Yes.
band and a hip hop group, and so it was always performance. And then there was a point where I made a pivot. It completely changed, and I don't want to say like my dreams of being this, hip hop artist or music artist went away, but I definitely had to make a pivot, and it took me some time to come to grips with the reality of making that pivot, but using a different medium to express myself and still incorporate that performance element that always has been a common thread, right, in my past. And I feel like you have the same thing where you were very passionate. You had big dreams of being on TV and acting. And then now you're also transitioned into social media where you're still incorporating performance and incorporating, marketing and messaging, etc. So we're still kind of getting that fix, right? I'm
Right.
curious to know about that pivot, Brittany. What did that look like, making that pivot from saying, okay, maybe this is not going to pan out the way I wanted it to go, let me make a pivot and go in this different direction. Let me know what were you feeling, and how did you embrace that pivot during that time?
I felt like crap about the acting thing for a while. I was hard on myself.
Okay.
It was a dream ever since I was a child to first and foremost be a television star like the girls on Full House because
Hmm.
I was obsessed with Full House, you know. And I looked at it like, wow, wait a minute. I see these children, they're able to be on television. I was little. I started making that connection of like, oh, this is a thing you could actually do. Not, with my little naive brain thinking you could just jump on the television screen. But anyway, the dreams of that, and then of course to think about movies and Broadway and all the things stuck with me. And that was like the only thing I was gonna do. That you couldn't have told me otherwise. I didn't know how, but that's just what I was gonna do. And life progresses, I get older. I never moved to Hollywood, I never moved to New York the way that one probably should for those types of reach those high levels of success as a performer. And I started getting really hard on myself about the fact that I didn't do that. And I started to have babies in my early 30s, and I just was like, wow, you just never did it. So I felt at first disappointment in myself, like why didn't you just do it? But then also, like, I'm becoming a parent, and so I'm thinking, oh, but I do love these babies. Shit, it's this weird feeling and this kind of torn feeling. And so I continued to perform, here in Houston, especially in theater. Houston has a really great theater scene. But it still wasn't what I had planned. But plans schmans, right? And I remember it really dawning on me what social media meant for me as a performer, which I'm sure a lot of people listening could relate to that as a creative person, a performer, whatever you do. And I went, wait a minute. You've just had a couple of viral videos. You've been doing this dance thing. You're on your treadmill. You're doing all this silly, fun stuff. You are performing for millions of people the way that you always dreamt of. It's just not the same vehicle that you thought it was going to be. And not to sound all sunshine and rainbows, because again, like I said, at first it was hard. Um, and it felt like that's not really the same. That's not that's not really what I planned, Brittany. But it's really been this beautiful experience and this huge, deep lesson for me as a human of like, you you really can get to either the same or a similar destination. It's just that the road might change a bit and it might get a little extra bumpy and wind around in ways that you weren't expecting. And that's what social media allows, right? All these technologies we have access to, it allows us to fulfill dreams of all sorts. You don't have to be a performer, it can be whatever it is, because you can connect with humans and get opportunities and and make an impact. And that's what drives me like now, right? In running my business, you got to have, how it is, you got to have some heart behind what you're doing usually to help really get somewhere in a business. And that's what it is, because of what it's done for me personally. It's allowed me to fulfill that dream of performing for millions of people. So now I can try to help other people fulfill their dreams, whether it's from childhood or not, by using social media. So it was not easy at first, to answer your question, but when I realized the beauty of it all, I just fell in love with the experience.
Let's talk about the beauty of social media that attracted you the most. I heard that you were excited and enthusiastic about the performance element of social media, right? It is a different stage. It is a virtual stage, but a stage nonetheless. And I always say, when you're behind the mic, it's a performance. When you're in front of a camera, it's a performance. It's always something I always preach to creators, to keep that in mind. And I think that's something that you and I, it's a competitive advantage, because we understand the art of performance, and we understand the art of bringing energy and being authentic and bringing that type of vibe to the community and everything that we do. And I see that in you. But let's talk about social media in regards to when you made that pivot. And by the way, I can relate to everything you just said. I can definitely second that. You made that pivot to social media, and this was back in the MySpace days, right? I think I think I read where you were even like in the MySpace. Which, by the way, what were you doing in MySpace? Did you have like what do you recall from MySpace?
Well,
Is that where
MySpace,
you?
okay, it's been literally 20 years. So we're recording this in
It's been a minute.
2023.
We're kind
And
of dating ourselves, right? Like, this is
I
still
know.
Dre,
It was like
MySpace.
2003. I was using MySpace. I was still thinking I was going to be a television superstar at the time, but I just thought, in the meantime,
Mm,
you mean I can post something to this here website thing and then people all over the world could see it?
yeah,
Jackpot. Like, to me, that was
yeah,
amazing. And other people like
yeah.
have the opposite reaction, like, "Ooh, I don't want to tell people about my life." But me, I was like, "Let's go. Let's go right now." So, you can have like the music on your page. So when somebody lands on your MySpace page, they hear your song.
I remember that. I
It
remember
was
that.
amazing. I fell
Yeah.
in love with social media, and we've had this love affair ever since then. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember you could also have the blogging capability. Remember that? You could also leave blogs and post on
Yes.
MySpace. I'm not sure if you remember that, but yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
and by the
it's
way, for all
great.
you young bucks, yeah, MySpace is like probably the first social media platform out there, and that's where I know that's where you and I cut our teeth in just getting into the social aspect and creating content and sharing. My band had one, and we were always kind of engaging with our fans. So I love MySpace. All right, so I digress. Let me go back to the question here. Focus, Ozeal, focus. All right. So the question is the beauty of social media. Getting into the social media world, what was it? Because I heard that you want to make an impact. You want to help other business owners and creators use social media, but not so much for like an income standpoint, but also to make impact. Talk to us a little bit about that aspect and why that means so much to you. Elaborate on that.
It's it's very easy to get caught up in associating a social media presence with dollar transactions,
Mm,
and I completely understand that. So I get it. I have a similar I want similar things to happen, right? We want these efforts to lead to helping grow our businesses and our brands. And that's great. But what I've realized is that when I dig down deep, what's the standout is the impact I've made on others, helping to inspire someone, having someone inspire me, meeting actual legitimate friends, like people that are genuinely my friends now. Seeing somebody start to thrive that first was nervous about getting on camera, all these little things, and seeing like their lives actually change. Because it happened to me first with these dancing videos, and it helped me. Yes, it did actually help build Fun Love Media, because that gives you, as you know, when you show up like that in that kind of space, it gives you like this authority, this credibility. Like, people know your face, they trust you. So then they're more likely to buy from you. So it did help the business. But man, there's nothing like the feeling you get when you know you've made a positive impact on somebody in that way. And it's like a total stranger on the other side of the country or the other side of the world. It's kind of magical, really. And when I experienced that, I was like, Well, I got to talk about this. I got to talk about this. I cannot keep it to myself. And I'm talking about it. And then I actually start seeing it happen with whether it be a client or somebody in my membership, or even just like a friend that we talked about social media together, changing their lives, giving them opportunities, get on a cover of a magazine, get on your local news, share your good stuff with everybody. And to me, that's the standout. And here's what I think a lot of people miss whenever you mesh all these things together that we're talking about is your business, whatever it is, whatever you're doing, it will end up benefiting from your social media presence. It will. It really, really will. You don't have to. I think that we think we have to say, like, my green widgets are on sale today. Please buy them. Right. But if you're willing to be patient and go through that process of creating and putting something out there to like be helpful to people and be of value to people, then you're certainly going to end up growing your business. I just think it's that perspective of maybe you don't come at it from this forceful, I'm going to try to sell shit perspective, more of a I'm here to genuinely provide value, even if that value is like letting someone laugh with me because I'm acting like a fool on my treadmill. Like, we're going to laugh together and have fun, and that's valuable.
That's one of the things that I noticed right out the gate, because I knew you I knew you had the social media agency, excuse me, and then I've noticed that when I was looking at your content, none of it was salesy. Like, none of it was selling social media packages. None of it was like, hey, look at me, this is what we could do for your business. It was very much like build on your personal brand and
Yeah.
how fun you were having, which, by the way, I think Social Sunshine and Fun Love Media, like, everything is, I mean, I'm pretty sure that was orchestrated. Everything's fun and vibrant. But you live that. Like, we see that online, and I think it's pretty dope to see it all kind of connected, right? Intertwining with each other. So where I was going with this was like, I see that a lot of social media, what I'm hearing is, for our creators watching and listening, instead of going into the direct pitch and post and look at me and listen to this and watch this and subscribe here and
Right.
this is what I can do, your approach is different, right, Brittany? And the fact that you believe in being able to bring them into your world by introducing them to different aspects of yourself as a personal brand and as an agency, and you show them what it feels like to build a social media following, and then ultimately that funnels them back into business, right? Clients. Is that the philosophy? Did I get it right?
Yeah, you're right. And it actually, at first, I think it happened accidentally because I really did just want to like dance and be a performer and like hog the spotlight like performers like us tend to do sometimes, and have fun with it. but
Yeah.
but I did realize soon that it did help my business. I would have people reach
Mhm.
out to me and be like, I'm interested in hiring y'all. I saw your dancing video. And I'm like, if you saw that crazy dancing video, you still want to work with me, then that we are definitely a match, we are definitely a match. And so when I put the pieces together in my head, I went, okay, this is all connected and this is actually going to benefit my business, but I can also be doing something that I'm having fun doing. Like, this is
Yeah.
amazing. And
Yeah.
that's why I always encourage people, if you can create content and include like something that you already love or you're already passionate about, it's not going to feel like as much work. You're going to be way less likely to quit. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to optimize the experience, and people are going to see the good things shining through you, like onto the screen or in your voice or whatever. And they're going to be more drawn to you. It's just good. It's just good all around to do things that you love in your content any, any chance you get. So when I realized and made those connections, I thought, well, great. Well, let's just keep going, And so I do have like logistically, I do have things set up to where there is a place for people to
Mhm.
go to learn about the business and what the services are and all that. I mean, I have Fun Love Media set up separately. This is just everybody's situation is different. You choose how you do it, of course, but I have it set up separately. And that way there is that home for that. We want to have that home. We want to show, look, we did this work for clients. Here's a video of something we put together for someone, and you should see what we're capable of. But you're right. I didn't want my personal brand to be full of that because I gave it a designated home, and I wanted my personal
Yeah.
brand to welcome, like you said, like welcome people into my world as a human
Mhm.
being and have that human to human connection first. And it helps the performer thing. Like, there's probably a lot of podcasters listening, right? You know, it does help because we want to have more listeners. We want to have that volume, and not every
Mm,
kind of business needs volume. But for podcasters, we want, right? We want a lot of listeners. We don't want just 5, but somebody that charges like super high ticket for consulting specialized services may only want 5 clients the whole year, right? But
yeah.
so it kind of depends on what you do as to how you're going to approach social media. So for me, I was like, well, I want tons of listeners of my show, and I want to impact all these people, and I want to perform for people. So it made sense to keep that like that. Keep the personal brand the best I can like that. And I have little glimpses of business in there. But
Mhm.
people are smart. They'll put it together and they'll go, okay, wait, this chick works in social media. I got to look into this.
It's like, what do you do actually? I'm like,
I've
oh yeah,
I've
no,
had
it
that
happened.
question a lot. I've had that question a
Yeah,
lot. But if
yeah,
you do all the things, have everything set up nicely, nice and clean, and you have a place for people to go to learn about those things, your content can be about whatever. And that goes for someone that's not even an agency owner or a company. Like I feel like if you're building a company, it means you have employees and it's a thing that you're building to where it could still run without you, right? So even if that's not you, if you're a solopreneur, you can still create whatever kind of content you want to
yeah,
bring people into your world and then have a little place for them to go. If you're interested in business, you can go here, you
yeah.
know. And some people want to talk about business. That's cool. Like do it if that's your thing, but if it's
Mhm.
not, know that you don't have to.
Yeah, I find your approach a lot more approachable, and those are the ones, the brands that I gravitate towards too are the ones that are just introducing me to their vibe, and again,
Yeah.
just who they are as a person. And then I'm like, oh, I really like, and this is a great, way to use podcasting, which is one of the most intimate platforms where you're showing up, you're intimate, you're in somebody's earbuds every
Yes.
week,
Intimate.
and you're just kind of, you're cultivating that deeper relationship. And then you're like, I really like her vibe, I really like his vibe, I really like what they stand for. And you do that through these mediums, and that, to me, I believe that's the new marketing. I believe, again, the community is the new marketing. It's currency, it's luxury. I think that's where we're going. Which I'm curious to ask you, Brittany, is, where do you see, and I've noticed this trend of community now, and you and I have been vibing on community for quite some time, but what's your take on like a social media trend as we move forward? I know we just got, hit with the new social media platform, Threads,
Yes.
when we're recording this, but I feel like it's all community centric. So where do you see social media going as it relates to community, and where we're going just in general?
I think that I had somebody put this, I can't take credit for this. Somebody that I interviewed on my show actually put this way. He said, I think we're in like this second wave of social media, which made sense. We've had 20 years since MySpace back in 2003, and it makes sense, right? And it's still so young when it comes to just existence with humans, social media, right? So I do think we are kind of on this new wave. And I do think that the community vibe is definitely something that people are going to be leaning more into. I think that it can be very tricky and it also takes patience and
Mm,
nurturing, and it's not easy. So I think that another thing that might happen, I could be totally wrong, but I kind of feel like we might notice, those of us that are nerding out on these things and paying attention, we might notice some people really continuing to rise to the top as maybe some others are more weeded out. That's a horrible thing to say, weeded out, but you know what I mean. People that don't want to go that extra mile. Because I think to build a community online, whether it's an actual structured paid for one or it's just like you and your followers, it does take that extra effort. You got to go the extra mile. You've got to nurture that community. Now, a community, as you know, can gain its own momentum over time, but for a while, just like building a business from scratch, it takes that extra effort from the leader. So I think that anybody that's willing to do that is going to stand out and shine in the coming years, and the people that don't want to screw with it won't, kind of thing. But yeah, keep that in mind. If it doesn't have to be this structured paid for actual, I have one, but like you don't have to do that. It could literally just mean the people that follow you, say on Instagram, and y'all have made like a little community. but it's keeping in touch with people. It's making sure and engaging on their stuff, all the things. I think that that is a big one. And I also think that in general, this is another prediction of mine. We'll put it on the record here.
Let's
I
go.
think that I think that just in general, we're going to see some sort of big change with the actual people we're seeing on social media, and not just because they don't feel like building a community. I just think that now we've had officially kind of 20 years, right, of this. We're going to see like the true hardcore people, persisting, and then we'll see more and more people dropping off, which I guess, with younger people coming in as well. But I just think it's interesting. It's kind of a persistence thing. Like, I don't know about you, but I've noticed over the years of just having an online presence, right? Like, I'm like, oh man, where'd she go? She seemed really committed. Like, hang on, wait, where'd he go? He had like this whole like internet, interview show or whatever it was, and you never know who's gonna say peace out.
And if you think about it, Brittany, I mean, that's the nature of everything we do, right? I mean, if
Right.
it's that's people evolve, and sometimes people change paths. And I've met people that were really hot into social media and thought leadership in different areas, and now they're doing completely different. Some of them got day jobs, and some of them went completely in a different path. And I think that's going to happen naturally, right? Where you're going to see
Right.
people, they're going to be persistent, and there's people who are going to be in it for the long game that really, really love this and are going to evolve with social media and going to evolve with these different tools. Like for me, like I've been over a decade, I've been in this space. And even though I've kind of gone in different directions, I still come back to
Yeah.
doing this. So this is definitely something I love. But I think that you're going to see people kind of go in and out, especially we see this in podcasting, right? Where they start a podcast, think it's going to be easy, things they're going to monetize right out the gate. And then next thing you know, they kind of fade away because this takes time, and this takes, as you said, patience is the key
Right.
word,
Yeah, it really does. You're right. It's like with anything. I wonder how you can I ask you a question?
Yeah, give it to me. Yeah, let's
Feel
go.
about how you feel about podcast monetization. I know that's a whole can of
Mm.
worms. We don't have to go on about it forever. But I think this is something, just my opinion, that I think is
Give it to me.
overlooked.
Yeah. Let's talk about
Because
that.
we have podcasting clients at Fun Love Media. And so I've been able to like kind of observe and different kinds of personalities and all these things. I'm feeling like it's really getting to be such a thing for, say, for example, a business owner who's already got an existing business of whatever kind to start a podcast, and with the intention of it just being a part of their overall marketing for their business, rather than going in from that angle of I just want to get ad money, the way
Mhm.
that maybe a household name would if they're already known by millions of people, and you can start a show and you can immediately have ad revenue because you're Kim Kardashian or whatever. But most people aren't, and as you know, it's not always very easy to get a bunch of ad money from shows. But that's what I'm
Mhm.
thinking. I'm seeing like more people coming at it from a different angle. Maybe they don't necessarily want ads, but they want to like promote their own business and it support their thing they've already got.
Definitely seeing that. And I take the approach, Brittany, in that I mean, this is definitely relational marketing. It's PR. This
Yeah.
is a great platform for B2B, especially B2B companies who I've worked with. But I always say, use this vehicle for it to become the voice of your business, not
Yeah.
become the business. And I know sometimes I get pushback. Well, I want this ROI, and I want to make money. But I believe that this is
I
just a
understand.
platform to have conversations and to get people, for people to get to know who you are versus just trying to monetize it. Because I believe that when you monetize, as you said earlier, you can't undermine the audience. They know, kind of like your approach, right? Same analogy. You dance and you bring them into your digital ecosystem because they vibe with you. And then they'll go down the rabbit hole and they're, oh, she has fun, love media, and she does this.
Right.
Same philosophy, same thing with podcasting or YouTube. For creators that are creating platforms, you create it to entertain, to educate, to empower, to inspire, whatever it is. And then you bring them in, they get to know you. And then once you have an audience, then you attract ad buys and people that advertisers. And then you also attract other opportunities to monetize the podcast. But to go into it, I just feel like a lot of B2B companies are just missing the mark in the opportunity to really go deeper with their audience with podcasting versus let me start a podcast because I want this to be like an infomercial for my business. I'm like, don't do it, because here's
Right.
the other thing, Brittany, I'll share with you. You got me going, girl. Don't you got me?
Yes, I
Oh,
love it. I
okay.
love it.
But check this out. You got me. So Here's the other thing. You're great at this. And I've been doing this for a minute as well. B2B companies who try to start a podcast simply to sell, number one is just it's salesy. People are going to just be like, no, thank you, right? Because I
Right.
go to podcasts for a different reason, not
Right.
to be sold to. And number two, a lot of them, they don't have background or broadcasting skills, or this is the first time doing this, like many of us. And you got to get, this is a craft. People
Yeah.
went to school to do this, and you
Right.
got to respect the art. And a lot of people that I see try to go to B2B route and be like, well, let me go ahead and B2B podcasting and sell. They're horrible behind the microphone. And it's because they simply don't understand that this is an art form. And I think that's another thing that a lot of companies miss, in the fact that we're going to be behind the mic, but do we actually have the right talent? Do we have talent to pull this off and make this entertaining enough to sell? And I think that's another thing that a lot of people really don't talk about. I'm curious to know your thoughts. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no,
Just real.
I'm totally with you on that. So I think that you have, like, say again, I'll use my example of a business owner with an existing business that wants to have a podcast and just let it be a part of their overall thing
Yeah,
and not necessarily looking for ads.
that's correct.
I've found, like you're saying, like, just really trying to make it a good show is
That's
is
it.
is enough promotion for your. I mean,
Make it a good
we
show.
actually have done where, like, clients will record an in-house ad for their business, but it's
Mhm.
literally meant to be structured, and it's 60 seconds or less, and it's plopped into the episode just like an ad would be, and that's it. We're not spending the whole episode talking about your business. Like you're saying, like, if if you want to choose to have your own business's ad, cool, but like that's it. The rest of it is about the conversation. It's about whatever
That's
you're
right.
helping people with. It's about your freaking expertise in your business. Like, talk about it, help people. I mean, I'm totally with you on that. I think it's just like social media. There's so much opportunity in having a really good podcast.
Yeah,
So many other things can come about rather than just being so transactional. Like you said,
that's right.
ROI. Like, oh my god, I don't want to hear any more about
Yeah.
ROI.
Oh my God. Yeah, we hear that a lot, right? It's social media and
Yes, yes,
podcasting. Man, all the KPI.
and with us, we're doing organic social media. We are not an
Mm,
ads agency. We're not.
mhm.
So it's a totally different world. We're literally creatives, a group of creatives that are going to show up at your business and film some stuff and take some photos and get to know you, and then create creative social media ads and put them out there in the world. Like, it's not about ads and numbers and
No.
ROI. It's totally different. So I think it's the same with podcasting. I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
Let's talk about social media and what's popping right now. What's exciting you right now? Okay. If you look at social media landscape, and again, you're crushing it on TikTok. I see you on IG. You're doing all the things there. But what is the platform right now that you see like the biggest opportunity for content creators?
Oh, it depends on what your goal is. I hate to say that. I
Mm.
hate to say that.
Hey, you're the social media expert. Come on, give it
I
to us. I mean, let's get strategic here.
I think that I will go ahead and say that I personally am biased to Instagram simply because I love the way it works. I love the
Okay.
feel of it, the flow of it, the features, how you can get in touch, stories are such a big part of it, how
Okay.
you can collaborate on a post. Like, there's literally actual features and things that I've loved about Instagram ever since I joined it back in 2012. Okay. So I personally like it, and I know the advantages of it, but I will say it's not the place for everybody, right? So you really
Mm.
have to think about, people say, well, think about where your audience is. Well, a lot of people don't know what the hell that means. Like, what do you mean where my audience is? What audience? I don't have an audience yet. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Trying to find out, right? So you want to think about the vibe of what you're able to create, what
Okay.
you want to create, and then the people you are hoping to reach, and then a little bit of guidance will get you where you need to go. So I think a lot of people overlook LinkedIn, for example. Now, this is not the ideal place for me to post a dancing video, although I have. I mean, it wasn't quite as successful there as it was other places, but it's really because, for example, LinkedIn, where else are you going to be able to get in direct contact with a big decision maker in a big
Right.
company? Probably not very many other platforms. That's the one. So it just really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I'm trying to start conversations for a client of mine to get him some brand deals on a social media because he has 300,000 followers. So we're trying to build this little business for him out of that, right? Well, I went to LinkedIn first. I went to go find the social media people behind this big brand and that big brand, because those people are on there and they have it listed and they want to network with people, and that's the whole reason why they're there. So you see what I'm saying? So if
Mhm.
you decide on what your goals are, and then you take that approach, and then every platform has the different stuff. But I think that it's important, and a lot of people, a lot of like social media experts, quote, um, don't necessarily want to say this a lot of times, but I do think you should be on more than one platform.
Okay.
I
I was gonna go there. I was gonna
I
ask you, do you believe in
absolutely
the be everywhere philosophy, or do you
I
feel
I
like
liken the whole
one or two?
omnipresence thing for
Okay.
myself. It makes sense for me as a brand, for my goals and my vision, and wanting to be this public figure and being cool with that, and that being a part of the vision. So anybody like that, you should definitely be everywhere. But the thing is that I'm not equally aggressive on every platform. I post way more on Instagram, and but less
Mhm.
on LinkedIn, but more over here and less over
Mm.
there, So it can vary, but I do think a presence in general. I think anybody out there that is committed to having any sort of a presence, even a
Yeah.
smaller one, go ahead and grab those accounts from all the platforms,
Mhm.
give them, and stake your claim on your name
Yeah.
or your business name, even if you're not even ready to use them. So you already have them. But I do think for most people, choose at least two places to be. If you
Mm.
have two touch points for people,
Like 2 main
yeah.
platforms
I
and
feel
then
like have a primary and a secondary.
mm.
I mean, have a third and a fourth, a fifth, that's cool too, but I'm just saying, at least have a primary and a secondary, even if you're not equally aggressive on both of them. Just that way you have a little opportunity to reach a secondary audience and you're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
How do you manage running an agency, being an entrepreneur, being a family woman? You have kids as well. You stay pretty busy there. I see that. And also managing yourself as a content creator and putting the output. How do you juggle all those things?
I love all those things so much. So
Mm,
it's not that hard. Everybody come at me
mm.
because I genuinely love all those things you just mentioned so much. And I have I'm a big picture thinker, which was not always helpful whenever I was younger and whenever I was like suffering from severe anxiety years ago,
Mm.
right? Because if you're a big picture thinker, you're thinking of like life, death, the
Yeah.
end of the world, like serious, like it can go a little overboard, right? But what I've learned over the years of calming down and using it to my advantage is that it is an advantage. And so I think about
Mm.
88-year-old Britney and what would she think about what you're doing, and I'm trying to help her not have regrets, right? So I kind of live for 11-year-old Brittany and 88-year-old Brittany and this one, whatever age I'm at the time.
But
And
you
that,
still have to be like, as far as productivity though, I mean, you love all those things, but
yeah,
what systems and processes do you have? Like, do you have a schedule? How do you go about organizing your time
I do.
doing all that?
I do have a schedule. I
Okay.
work a good bit. There's some weeks I work 7 days, not 8 or 9 hours for the day, but
Mhm.
just work some every single day. I'm in people, if you're being hard on yourselves, if you are like a newer parent, please
Mhm.
don't, because this is
Mm.
not how I lived when my kids were little. They're older and I can do this because they're more independent. So if I need to work, like yesterday was a Sunday, I had to work all day because I had stuff that absolutely had to be done before today. And they're older and my lifestyle allows that. So you have to look at where you're at as well, because if I work 7 days a week for, next week or something, it's okay. My family's going to be okay. Everybody's
Mhm.
independent. We're good. You know what I'm saying? And also that's a different angle too when you are supporting children. Like my company
Yeah.
supports my household. So got to get shit done. But I also, here's a way of how to handle the time is I try my best, like with kiddos, I'll make sure like we have time together. And with
Mm.
kids, if you just at least give them like 15 minutes of your undivided attention, it will go so far. And I've learned that about kids, and they'll take that and they'll run with it. And they got that time with me. So it's just really trying to be strategic about anything. Like if I can have lunch with them in the middle of the day in the summer, then cool, I did that, but I'm getting right back to work, but they still got to have that time with me.
Mm. There's a great quote. I'm not sure who said it, but it goes along the lines of don't don't prioritize your schedule, schedule your priorities.
Oh yeah,
Have you
I've
heard of
heard
that
that.
one? And I think
Yeah.
when I heard that, I was like, oh, that switch, that different perspective on, don't prioritize your schedule, but schedule your priorities. And what I'm hearing from you is that you're very mindful and you're very intentional about scheduling your priorities, knowing
Yeah.
that family's there and knowing that content creation as a creator yourself is there, and also running an agency. And I'm just curious because I know a lot of creators who are watching and listening. Some of us have day jobs, some of us are juggling many things in life, domestic obligations, etc. And then you're also trying to find the bandwidth to be able to create content and show up on all the social media platforms and feel that pressure to be
Right.
on, so you can grow that audience and get out of your situation. So I was always curious to ask you, like, how do you do it? Because I know it's a big struggle for a lot of creators.
Right. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it is difficult at first. This is not like something I just like magically started doing overnight. I
Yeah.
definitely it took some time to get into some sort of a groove, and there's still hard times for sure. But a good example is last night, a Sunday night, I filmed 5 videos for social media. By the way, they were very short and simple and fun, and this was not a serious heavy situation, but an idea came. I realized I wanted to do something. I had a moment. My kids were getting ready for bed. I had like 30 minutes and it was just like bam, bam, bam. Well, you know how it is to be a creative. When you're in that creative headspace, it's like, hey, I just did one. I have this other idea. Let's see if I can do another. Let's see if I can do another. So that's actual like a practical tip for creating, especially if you're creating content for social media. But it could be for, honestly, it could be for podcasting too, right? If you have just a little chunk of time and you start feeling that creative, like mojo flowing, take advantage of it and go
Mm.
ahead, because you never know, tomorrow it might be a crazy day and you won't get to. So I try to like seize the moment, whenever those moments are there.
What's been your biggest personal growth as a content creator?
That's a good question. It's really been a big part of it has been on that process of discovering that you actually really never know how things will go, and that in a sense of like it really could be really great still, even though it didn't go as planned. It's that lesson I learned as having that specific dream and plan for my life, it not going the way I thought it would by a certain timeline, because we all put timelines on ourselves, and then realizing that you could turn it into something else and have something amazing happen still, even though that specific thing didn't. That's been a
Mm.
big personal lesson for me. And it's very hard though. I don't know about you, but I like plans. I like to set a goal and then I go and accomplish it. And then we move on to the next goal and we get all the things done. Right. And
Mhm.
it's hard whenever that doesn't happen. So it's taught me to give myself that kind of grace of hang on, calm down.
Mm.
Let's see what kind of cool thing we can make of this. This is actually pretty cool, and you're overlooking it because it's not the exact freaking thing you planned before.
Mm.
Sometimes, what do they say? You miss the forest for the trees, kind of thing. So that's been a
Mhm.
huge, huge lesson as a content creator. And also, one more really big one is that there's so much talk. I hear this a lot of worrying about judgment from others, showing up publicly on social media, on YouTube, on in your podcast, right? And worrying about judgment from others, specifically probably people in our real life that aren't creators and don't get it. Like Aunt Sally is like judgy as hell, right? And that's a legitimate,
Yeah.
deep-rooted issue for so many people and holds so many people back. I've had lots of conversations about this. And what I've learned is that one, a lot of this judgment is, well, some of
Mm.
it could be just personality and somebody's just a jerk, but a lot of it comes from someone being unfamiliar with what we do as creators, because we are a small percentage of the population. But also, people aren't judging you and nitpicking you quite as much as you think most of the time.
Mm.
We really, really blow that up. And I noticed that the more confident I come in as a creator and be like, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. I don't care, Aunt Sally. Like it or not, this is what's happening. Everyone just goes, oh, okay. I guess she's just gonna keep doing it. So we're just gonna go with it. And then their judgment kind of fades away. But you have to get over that hump, that initial fear of that judgment.
I'm so glad that you mentioned this before we close out the show because, I've been thinking about a lot of, especially my recent journey as a content creator, I know when I go in and I go through sprints and I'll stop and notice a lot of creators also will stop posting. And I've been thinking about like why do we, and there's creator burnout, and there's that whole different discussion about creator burnout, but I truly believe you just nailed, that's the reason why a lot of creators don't show up consistently, is because we are afraid of criticism. And it took me a minute, Brittany, for myself. I remember like thinking, I was like, no, I don't really care what people say, man. I really, but when I really started getting deeper into it and started having conversations with other creators who were just showing up and then they just kind of vanished. When you have deep conversation with those creators and even with myself, I was like, oh man, I am judging. I am afraid of judgment, rather.
Right.
I am afraid of somebody saying, "Oh man, that video is whack, man. You don't do all the jump cuts, and you don't have all the captions, and it's not a 4K, or your audio isn't great, or what are you talking about, or this doesn't make sense." I mean, if you really think about it, Brittany, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I truly believe that is the root of what's causing a lot of creators to not show up authentically and show up consistently and not really take their vision to the next level, because they're afraid of judgment. And that's point blank. When I started thinking, what is the root? That right there, what you just said, is the reason why creators are not showing up. I truly believe
Well,
that.
it's something I think I heard Gary Vee say a while back. He's like, it's kind of like being in like middle school or something, or high school. It's like you're walking around so worried that people are going to look at the pimple on your nose
Yeah,
and totally make fun of you, when really everybody is just walking around worried about the pimple on their own nose and hoping other people don't
so
notice. So
true.
so there's always an exception, but I do believe that for the most part, we are probably more critical of
We
ourselves
are.
than what others
It's
are.
facts.
And
Yeah,
people are worried about their own stuff. So
that's right.
when we focus, and whenever I always say, when you have that tug at your heart to share and to create content for whatever you're
Hmm.
doing, it's there for a reason. And it's probably going to tug and tug and tug until you actually do it.
Beautiful. If there's one creator factor, right, that every creator should learn, master, or understand, what would that be?
Building confidence by keeping promises to yourself. That's how you build confidence, I feel. So if you said, today I'm going to do 10 push ups, then do them. If you said, today I'm going to do some deep breathing exercises, I don't know, I'm giving you examples, do it. If you said, I'm gonna make sure and record that episode today, do it. I mean, granted, life happens, I understand, but as a general theory, we have to follow through for ourselves first. We have to. And you'll start building up confidence, and then you can rely on yourself. Think about if somebody else, the way that we might cancel on ourselves. Think if somebody else did that to you all the time. You didn't trust them anymore. And screw them. I'm not inviting them to lunch anymore. They keep telling me they're going to come and they don't come. Right? But we'll do it to ourselves all day. It's crazy. So when we tell ourselves we're going to do something that we want to do, should do, need to do it and take it by baby steps. And even if it's small, and build your way up, because you're going to build that confidence. And whenever a creator is confident, there's no limit.
BritneyCrosson.com. Britney dropping science on y'all. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to check out the podcast, The Social Sunshine, on your favorite podcast platform. Also, the Small Biz Social Society, which is her private membership. We'll make sure that we link up that in the show notes, and also on YouTube. And of course, funlovemedia.com. If you're looking for social media management, content creation, content marketing, you need help, One Love Media got you covered. All right. Brittany, it's been a little slice of heaven having you on the show, my friend. From local to hometown, H town here representing. It's always great to connect with local superstars and people who I admire, who I'm a big fan of. And, you're one of those individuals that I see here, not only from Houston, but obviously taking it to different levels globally. But, I'm proud to call you a Houstonian rock star friend, and just to see all your work and your inspiration and everything that you do for your community. You truly inspire me. So I want to thank you so much for being a part of the Creator Factor fam.
Thank you, Ozeal. I appreciate it so much. I really, really appreciate you having me on the show. It meant a lot. Thank you.